Okay, it's 10:04 local time, so we're gonna get started here. Just FYI, for all registrants, or if anybody has to peel off early, I'll send out the recording afterwards, so no worries if you can't make it for the whole thing. And then, yeah, we're really excited. Today's a talk on global style guides. That's a new feature for us. We just came out with it, and we're gonna talk all about it now. So just a quick round of introductions. I'm Glenn, I'm an evangelist for Zeppelin. I'm also joined by Mike, who's gonna be helping out with some questions. Mike, you wanna say hi real quick?
Yep, sure.
Hey, everybody. So if you have any questions during the webinar, you can type them in the Q&A area, and then we can handle those at the end. And then for any that we don't have time for, we'll take those as a follow-up. Okay, so just a quick intro here. We're based in San Francisco, but we also have offices in Istanbul, Turkey. I also want to say too that we're hiring, so if you're in any of those areas and you'd like to work for Zeppelin, please let us know. We're looking for awesome people. We'd also like to hear where you're from, so if you want to type it in the chat box, we'd love to hear where you're calling in from today. This is a webinar, and this is, we want to do something special, so we're going to give away some nice custom designed Zeppelin t-shirts, which I know you all probably definitely want. Yeah, no one really has these, so this is extra special, and I'll be mailing you them. Like, it'll be me going to the post office and mailing you these shirts, and I'll show you at the end of the webinar how you can get these. I just want to say too that, well, we're gonna have a premium prize too. So when I tell you how to get this, we'll pick the best one out of the group, and then we'll have like a premium swag kit here with like a bottle and a hoodie, so extra special. Okay, we have an exciting agenda for you today. We're going to be talking about global style guides, about why we build style guides, and we'll build our own, and I'll walk you through the process of doing that. Really, ultimately, style guides help you save time and help curate your design system, so that's what we want to detail today. And then we'll probably have a pretty lengthy Q&A. I'll probably spend at least 20 minutes doing Q&A, so please type questions during it, and I'll handle those at the end. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to jump right into it here. So just in case you haven't seen already, we have a pretty lengthy blog post about detailing global style guides. So if you haven't had a chance yet to read this, it's just blog.zeppelin.io, and that will contain some more information about how you can use this and maybe some things I can't even cover today. But definitely check this out, and then yeah, just follow us on Twitter too if you haven't already, and we usually post updates there. Okay, cool. So jumping right into it. So right now I'm doing my demo. Today I'm going to be doing my demo on a Mac. Here I'm in my Mac. I'm just on a MacBook right now, and we're going to be using Sketch today. But of course, Zeppelin supports all the most popular design tools. So if you happen to be using Figma or Adobe XD, or for some Photoshop people out there, we support those as well. So in the future, if you decide to change design tools, we'll still be here, and you can mix and match your design tools too. So if half the team uses one design tool and the other half uses another design tool, you could use both if you like to. Okay, so what I want to detail here first is why we build style guides and what sort of benefit does this give to our team, and why are we doing this to begin with. So here I have just the latest version of Zeppelin, and I'm going to click into a project. And when I click into a project, let's just say I'm clicking into a design, and we can see here the Zeppelin magic. We can see here that we have elements, and we might know the typeface and the color, and we might know about how their width and pixels and things like that. But one thing that we don't have here yet is that we don't have an idea of if these colors are part of our design system, or if this font is part of our brand, if this is part of our theme. And we don't understand either of these elements or components. We know that these are elements, and we can see that that they have a width and a height, and we can see maybe some things there, but we don't understand if these are actually symbols maybe from within Sketch or components within Figma. So what we can do now is that we can attach this this project to an existing style guide, which is going to give context to all these elements. So what I have over here is a tree of style guides. Now I know this looks complicated, but it's actually really, really, really simple. Here we just have elements, colors, textiles, components that we share with all our Zeppelin projects. And that's what we're doing here with global style guides. Previously, each project had its own style guide, and you got to update each style guide individually if you were making a change. But here with global style guides, we can share these style guides that we curate with all our Zeppelin projects. So for example, we were just looking at a web project. So if we link it now to our web global style guide, now all those elements will have context. So I'm going to jump back over to the projects tab. I'm going to click into here, and I'm going to go to the style guide tab, and you can see here that we have new buttons for linking to style guides. So I'm going to click this, and I'm going to select the web library. So that's all we have to do there. Now we inherit all the resources, not only from within the web library, but also within the core style guide that I was inheriting from. I'll show you in just a second. So if I jump back over to the dashboard and jump back over to this design, we can see now that we have named colors. And this should give an indication to both our designers and our engineers that this is not just any color or any typeface. This is part of our design system, and then it will now link to the appropriate place within that style guide. We can also see a blue header here at the top that we can see that now these are actually components. And when we, this is not just a random element, this is a section header. And if we click on this link, it actually will jump over into our style guide. And now we can see that it's part of our curated components. This is also very powerful for the engineering team who's going to be implementing these designs. They'll be able to see that, this is a known element, this is a symbol, and maybe have code written for this already. And this name, by the way, that we're bringing in is the same name as it exists in Sketch. So I know I'm going quickly here. We're gonna build this together, so don't worry. I just want to give you a quick preview. One thing I also want to mention too is that for each component that we have, we can also see other screens that it happens to be used in. So it's not just that it's some random element. We can see that it's used throughout our designs, things like that. Okay, so to go over this more slowly, we're gonna build our own. Again, this is more of a complex tree. You can build this as simple or as complex as you need. We work with teams at Zeppelin of all sizes. We work with the largest enterprises in America, and we also work with small teams of just 1 or 2 people. And I would say that everybody kind of equally benefits by leveraging this. But of course, if you have a very large team, I think the benefit goes way up, of course. So as I mentioned before, we have a tree structure here. Basically, we just have a web library and a core. Just to give you some quick coaching on what you should put into these style guides and how you should build this. Core is just basically, it's not tied to any specific platform. So a good thing to put into core, what we call base style guide, would be colors and textiles, perhaps. You can put components in there as well, but they're not tied to any platform. They're completely platform agnostic. So just for example, the Zeppelin yellow, we would want that yellow to be consistent no matter what platform that we were developing for, whether it's iOS or Android or web. And we can put those colors within the base style guide. And then every style guide will inherit now that color palette and those textiles. I also want to mention too that this is a completely redesigned interface. So now when you click into a style guide, you can add Markdown, so you can make it as complex as you want to. You can include a wiki in here, something like that. And then also too, we can see that now we have a left navigation, which makes it easy for us to traverse through the different sections. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to jump into an organization here. I have different organizations that I'm a part of. We have an organization here at Zeppelin, and it helps you sort of manage projects into different sections. So I'm going to join the San Francisco travel section. And here we can see that we have no style guides at all, which is where you might be at right now. Or you might not have any global style guides built. You might have existing style guides right now within your projects. By the way, so when you updated Zeppelin, the existing style guides that were part of your project are just now known as local style guides. So it's not like they're erased or deleted or anything like that. You can still have a style guide per project, and you'll have elements that are specific just to that project that you don't want to share with any others. But what you can do in addition to that local style guide, of course, is that we can move as many elements as we want or as we can into a global style guide. That way we can share those resources with as many projects as we can. So that's what we're going to do here. We have an existing sort of suite of projects here. And now what we want to do is that we want to create our first global style guide by clicking on the Style Guides tab and then Create Style Guide. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we have different types. You can see here at the top, we have a label for platform free, and that's a base style guide. Again, this is not tied to any specific platform. So what we really suggest here is to put in, like, let's just say colors, for example. So I'm going to create this style guide, and I'm going to call this one core. And now what we can do is we can jump over into Sketch, because right now it's empty. I'm going to jump over to Sketch here. And what we can do is that, and by the way, if you're a first-time Zeppelin user, when you install Zeppelin for Mac, for example, we'll automatically install the plugin in Sketch. So there's no additional configuration or anything like that. And if I go over to the plugins menu, we can see here that we have Zeppelin. And we actually added some new features here. So before, maybe it was just export selected. And now we can actually just export colors and textiles as well. So what we'll do is we'll grab all the document colors that we have within Sketch, and we'll grab those and we can export those into Zeppelin. So I'm going to select export colors here. And what I can do is I can choose our San Francisco travel that we just created and go to the Style Guides tab. So of course you can still, as I mentioned before, you can still upload to projects like you have been. Each project have its own local style guide. But here we want to share as much as we can. So we can click on the Style Guides tab, and then we can click on the core base that we just created, and I'll click export. And very quickly, we just uploaded 10 colors. I can either click here, or we can see the status of the upload by clicking on this notification. And we can see that it grabbed all the colors that we have within Sketch. And now let's just say that these are our brand's colors. We can keep them in this in this core style guide, this base style guide. And now we can create a platform-specific style guide. So what I can do next is that now that we have colors, I can create another style guide, but we can create this one as a child. Again, this maybe sounds complicated, but it's actually really simple. It's just every style guide that's created from this core will now just inherit the resources in core as well. It's just an easy way to compartmentalize these resources in an easy way. So that way we can move forward now and maybe create, for example, like an iOS platform-specific style guide, but we'll still inherit all the colors from this core base style guide. So now when I click create, now we're going to create basically a child off of core, and I'll call this one maybe like iOS library, for example. And if I jump back out to the style guides, you can see now that we built like a simple tree. And as I mentioned before, this can grow very complex. You're not limited to one tree, by the way. You can build as many as you like in parallel. So if you have different resources that you want to sort of compartmentalize, you can create another tree, and you can build as many of these as you like. You can grow it to as complex as you like. So clicking into the iOS library, now what we want to do here is that we want to upload some iOS-specific resources. So I'm going to jump back over to Sketch very quickly, and I'm going to select our iOS symbols. Now we call symbols components in Zeppelin, but they're the same thing. They're just reusable elements that we can use throughout our designs and design system. So I'm going to select these iOS symbols on a Command A, and I'm going to go to Plugins, Export Selected. By the way, if you're in Zeppelin a lot, I highly recommend the keyboard shortcut Command Control E if you're on a Mac, which if you're on Sketch, you're definitely on a Mac. And now we can choose either a project or a style guide, but since we're doing global style guides and we want to share this library with all our iOS projects, I want to click on iOS library and click export. So the length of time that it takes, by the way, is just proportional to the file size that you're exporting from Sketch. So if you have a lot of artboards with a lot of images, Zeppelin's generating a lot of assets, so it takes slightly longer, but that was pretty quick. Okay, cool. So we just uploaded a bunch of components. So I'm going to click over here on the components area, and we can see that we have some components that have been uploaded here. We could also extend this too. We could also create an iOS or an Android library and a web library as well. But in this case, we're just going to do a quick iOS example. So within the style guide, by the way, what you can do as well is that you can add a description to each one of the components. This might be useful if you have an area, like let's just say that you're using GitHub to manage your source code. What you could do is you could actually link from the component itself in the description, you could actually link to like a repo or an area of the repo. And that might give the engineer sort of a faster way to reference where these components happen to be. We also have organizational features too, just to make you aware. You can select any of these by clicking and dragging and create a new section. So you could do something like navigation bar. If you happen to be uploading like thousands of these, and again, we have teams that upload thousands, you could also search as well too. Like let's just say you wanted to search for a couple of things. And then while you're searching, you could also just select the ones and then create a new section as well. Okay, cool. So we can create these basically sections of components. We can create descriptions for these components. And we can also add descriptions to the sections as well. So if you wanted to say something meaningful to the team and something important, you could just add that very quickly. That wasn't a very good one, but yeah, you know what I mean. Okay, cool. So now we have an iOS library and we have a core library. So now let's jump back over to our projects tab and let's take a look at an iOS app that we have. So just like we saw before, we'll have, let's just say an app, and we'll have RGB values, and we'll have dimensions of these assets. But we won't understand this part of our brand, part of our design system. So now what we can do is we can jump over to the Style Guide tab, and we can link to the Style Guide that we just created. And I'm going to select the iOS library. And now you can see that we inherit all the colors from core, and then we also inherited all the components from the iOS library. And again, automatically, we'll understand, just based upon the relationship from within Sketch, we'll also understand that relationship. So we understand now that this navigation bar is used in other screens, and we can see that over here on the bottom right. Just a quick pro tip too, this file that you see here at the bottom right, since we happen to be the uploader, since we exported from Sketch into Zeppelin, it just actually links to our file. So we can either upload, just quickly click on this, and this will open in Sketch. So that's a quick pro tip. It's just a quick way to jump back over to the Sketch file. And we'll also give you the location as well. So we'll give you in this case, it's in my documents folder and in the Zeppelin assets folder. Okay, cool. So jumping back over to our design, again, as I mentioned before, now we'll have all those colors that we have within our core style guide, that we can just see that this is gray, but this is Gandalf the gray. So we can understand that that's a color that is part of our design system. And then again, for the components, or whichever screen happens to have the components that we uploaded, here we find what it looks like here. So for our navigation bar, for example, we'll now understand that this is a color, that we have a component as well. And then when we click either on this blue header or on this right navigation, we'll actually link directly into the style guide. And then we can see exactly what other screens it's used in. We can see notes about it. And it's a very easy way to understand that this is a symbol. So the idea and what everybody should be working towards right now, again, just in the interest of efficiency and sharing as much as you can with the team, is that everybody should be working towards building out these style guides by moving as many elements as you can into these global style guides and then sharing them with all your projects. So let's just say I have other iOS projects here. So we just created this one in a few minutes. It just, it wasn't very hard to do. What we can do too is that we can click over into the iOS library, for example, and we can add this to other projects if we wanted to. So here we have one linked projects, but if you actually go into the style guide itself on the about page at the bottom, we can actually link this to all our iOS projects just with a click. So again, really only one person has to do this. So if you're the design system manager, or if you have a few spare minutes, you could create this for your team and share it with everybody. So it's actually really, really quick. And then once you have built it, you can just, by clicking, share it with as many projects as you can. And I just want to reiterate the point too that there will be projects where the elements are specific to that project that we can't really share with any other projects. So when you encounter that, you'll just be uploading just like you do normally, just to a specific project. So like, let's just say, for example, that I wanted to upload this mobile symbol, and I'm going to go to plugins, Zeppelin, export selected, save it. And what we could do is that we could still upload to a specific project. So here we can see, for example, maybe for our travel iOS projects, we can still upload specifically to a specific project. And then what you'll see here is sort of a stack, like a hierarchy that we can see here, that we have our iOS library, but then we also have our local style guide. So they're kind of sitting on top of each other here. We have an iOS library and then a local style guide. So we can still upload to a local style guide, and so you're just uploading to a specific project as opposed to a global style guide. Okay, cool. So I'm going to jump into Q&A in just a minute, but while I'm here, I just want to share with you a few pro tips that I think might be helpful to you. While I usually share these with when I'm doing calls, and people seem to really like them. Okay, so first pro tip is anytime you're on the home screen of Zeppelin, you could always just select and drag these artboards out into like a Slack window or to the desktop, and we'll actually export these PNG files. So it just might be a quick way for you to share, maybe like, hey, check out this PNG, and we drop it into a window. This one seems to be really popular that not everybody knows about, but if your developers are working with iOS or Android or with web, if they happen to have the desktop app, which the desktop app is not required. However, it does add a couple features that are nice to have. If you are a designer and you're going to be exporting from Sketch into Zeppelin, you have to have the desktop app. But a lot of engineers tend to use the web interface, which is great. But they missed out on one cool feature, among others, is that, let's just say that they happen to be working in iOS and they're working with the Xcode within a simulator window. They could pop out the design and then overlay it onto the simulator window. We even have a button to snap it to the simulator. And then that way, instead of just guessing to see if they've implemented the design correctly, they could actually overlay onto the simulator and then adjust the opacity and make sure that it's how it should be. And if you want to be hard on them, you could actually just enforce that they do that before, saying that they're done. So designers love this, but some engineers don't like it as much. Makes it a bit more difficult. But the idea is that you can create a more accurate design. So it's not just like, I think I'm done. You can actually just verify this. Okay, a couple more quick things. I highly recommend if you're working with a team, and pretty much everybody that's working with Zeppelin is working with a team, and this is sort of what the space that we're working with here with collaboration. We do have a Slack integration. You can enable that, attach it to your Slack, and then maybe if you're on vacation, you can get like a streaming series of updates. Maybe this is what it would look like. So you can kind of play quick catch up. And I want to say, just in case you're getting too much information, like let's just say that this channel is too busy, you could always adjust the notification settings from within our web interface. So within that project, you can adjust what's actually posted to that Slack. One thing I want to mention too as a roadmap item is that we are working on a Jira integration. So if you have any ideas or any sort of must-have features from within that, please let us know. We'd love to hear about what we should include in that. But yeah, a lot of teams that we work with use Jira, so we're going to be building that right now. I also wanted to mention one more roadmap thing. So as I mentioned before, a lot of engineers are going to be working with Zeppelin, and when they get to components, they're going to say, gee, I wonder if I have code written for this component. We're going to include a feature very shortly that will link these components directly into the area of the repository, perhaps where this code lays. So to help engineers implement this even more efficiently, we're going to have an integration into existing source code repositories. Again, just making the process even more efficient so they don't have to find out where this navigation bar code is, that they can link directly to it. So if you have any thoughts or feedback around that or something you would like to see there, please let us know, because we're developing it right now. Okay, cool. So that was a quick introduction into Global Style Guides. I'm going to jump back over to these slides. I got a couple for you. So as I mentioned, we can build this to be very simple. Again, we just have a core style guide that's completely platform agnostic, that has our colors and text styles perhaps. We can also include image assets in there, but they're not seasoned to any platform type. So if we wanted to download those assets, we can download a variety of them. But the assets in iOS and Android, of course, will be specifically for iOS and Android. And this can grow in complexity too. Like you could have a core style guide on a web, but we have a lot of teams that we work with that share symbols, colors maybe between iOS and Android as well. So let's just say that you have some symbols or components between your mobile platforms. You could also share them. And then of course you'd have elements that are specific to iOS or Android. And then here's just some more annotation just about for what this is, basically what I just described. Of course, at the end, we want to link them all to projects. So if you have any questions, by the way, if any of this is confusing, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to break it down for you or make, every team that we work with sort of has a different way in which they organize assets. And then, just shoot us a note and we'd be happy to help coach you maybe on how to implement this. But again, you can start very simply. You could even just have one global style guide, just an iOS one. You can start there. You don't have to start with this complex tree. And then later you can have it grow in complexity. Okay, so just a recap, a quick one. We built a style guide. We organized our colors, textiles, and components. And we linked it to a project, all in a few minutes, pretty quick. Okay, now on to business, serious business. For the t-shirt, we'd love to help you, we'd love to send you the swag. We'd love for people to wear these shirts. We'd also love for people to have the premium swag as well. So this is really simple. After you build your global style guide, and again, I'll send out the recording for this if you want to follow along, just tweet it and then tag us at Zeppelin. So just take a screenshot like of either of your component screen, something that you've organized and that you're proud to show up, or you could show us like if you have like a nice tree built out. We always are curious to see how people use this and how it benefits them. So please let us know, and we'd love to see it. And we'll send you a shirt. That's fun. So okay, I'm going to jump into Q&A in just a second, but just a couple handy links. Here's the blog, blog@zeppelin.io. Definitely follow us there. We want to do more of these talks, and we want to make sure that they're helpful, and we would love to cover more topics. So if you just go to zpl.io/Zeppelin Talk Survey, we'd love to hear how we're doing. And then, yeah, for some of the things that I mentioned, just like with some features or things like that, or maybe if you need some coaching, just send us a mail, hi@zeppelin.io. Okay, cool. So I'm going to jump into questions now. So I had Mike go ahead and copy some of the questions that you had into the doc. If you have any more, please type them now. And if we run out of time, I will send us a follow-up email with all the answers to the rest of them. Okay, cool. So let me just make this bigger, getting old. Okay, so is there a way to add notes to colors to give cues for each use cases color to the team? Yeah, this is a good question. Just to repeat that. So of course, we're going to be commenting from within Zeppelin. So let me jump over to maybe a different project here. And let me click on design. So you'll notice that we have different colors, like some are red and some are blue, and you can see that you can change that. So this is completely flexible. Again, depending on your team size or depending on how you want to compartmentalize comments, we can leave different colors. So just for example, if you wanted to do everything for development in red, you could just sort of dictate that and then say, okay, all development colors are questions in red. This might be useful later for categorization. So let's just say I was typing something here, like, okay, let's see, Patrick. By the way, if you wanted, you don't have to click posts. You could always just do Command Enter. It's a quicker way to post something. So we can do this red. You can always change the color weight if you wanted to. And what we can do is we can actually click over here on the top right, and we could actually filter too by colors as well. So if you were inviting somebody from the legal team, and that's something that's a pretty common use case, and legal was green, they would be able to come in here and click on green and then filter out all the conversations that were green, or all the ones that were red. I want to mention too that we also, if you happen to resolve a note, because the idea is that someone leaves a comment, you collaborate, maybe you change some things, but eventually we want to work towards resolution. So we'll click resolve. That note is not gone forever. You could always click on the top right and go to resolve notes as well, and then see like a history of what was going on here. So you can have like a history of all the comments and what was resolved and maybe how many people were collaborating on this. But yeah, just to answer your question, I guess succinctly, it's just you can change the color of the notes, and then you can decide exactly which group or which department gets each color. We have teams of thousands within Zeppelin in certain cases, so that becomes sort of more critically important to help organize that. Okay, cool. Is there a way to link all projects to the base style guide rather than linking each individually? Yeah, so what we recommend, let's see, link all projects to the base style guide. I think right now at the moment, so I was showing you the trick there. Let me jump back over to the style guide that we just created before. What I'm showing you here is that, yeah, we can link to projects. It looks like, so we've linked all these projects that we have. I'll try unlinking this one. I think at the moment right now, it's a click per project, but it sounds like we could develop probably pretty easily a feature to do all. So yeah, thank you for that feedback. I don't think that's something that's available today, but it's something that we can look into for sure. Yeah, we have teams that have hundreds and sometimes thousands of projects, so I could see that being very useful. So we'll definitely look into that. Cool, thank you for that. Okay, can you move or copy colors between a local and a base style guide? So yeah, we actually have a feature for we have an organization tier within Zeppelin. So for those folks, you can actually copy colors from an existing style guide into your new global style guide. So here you're asking for a base style guide. So let's just say you created a new base. You'd be able to copy colors from an existing local style guide that you had already. You can definitely do that with the organization plan. I wanted to mention to you that we have a feature on our short roadmap. So a lot of cool things that we're developing here. You'll be able to also copy components as well. So right now, sadly, you have to, it's not a big deal, but you just have to export the symbols from Sketch, for example, or any design tool that you happen to be using. You have to export those from Sketch into your Zeppelin style guide again. But if you happen to have a very highly curated set of components from within an existing project, we'll have a feature shortly where you can just copy those out of a local style guide of a project in addition to the colors and the textiles, to a global style guide. So definitely stay tuned for that. Okay, any tips for a beginner to make a consistent design system in Zeppelin? So yeah, this is actually a really good question, and this is something that Zeppelin can really help you with by creating these global style guides. So if what you're looking for is consistency, which most designers are, is that what you can do is, again, this is not just like, we're not just doing this for fun. What we're doing really here is that we're curating our design system. So we can build this highly curated set of colors and textiles and components. So what I would recommend initially, just very simply, is just start with colors. Just start with something simple. And then what you can do is you can have all these named colors. And then if an engineer or a designer comes across a design that doesn't have a named color, that should give them an indication that, hey, this is like a random hex value, and I'm not sure if this is actually something that we've thought about. So it's very likely that you can sort of curate all the colors that would be within your app, and then enforce that, hey, don't implement any colors that happen to just have like a discrete hex value. So again, you can just start simply just with that. And you know, if you happen to find a color that's random, that should give you an indication that this is something that we haven't thought about and we shouldn't implement, and that it's probably the wrong color. And then furthermore, you can sort of expand that in the future with colors and textiles then to components or reusable elements. So again, it's sort of a dual benefit. It's consistency, but it's also efficiency in some way, because again, a lot of the pages from within an app or a lot of designs have common elements that we're sharing. And this sort of lets you curate that consistency. And then again, of course, we want to encourage engineers to reuse as much as they can. So if they have code written for it already. So I would say start there. And then you can, again, grow it in complexity across many different projects that you happen to have. Okay, cool. These are great questions. So how can you add descriptions / markdown to each component? Yeah, so I covered this, but I'll just detail it again. So for each component, you can add notes to each one of these. And you can also add notes to different sections as well. So as you build this out, it will get pretty complex. So we definitely recommend using sections. I just right-clicked and you can either collapse or expand all sections. As I mentioned before too, we also gave a new redesign interface here. So what you can do is you can actually click and drag this to a different section as well. You might be able to just quickly drop this into icons. You can also right-click it too and move it that way as well. There's a lot of hidden functionality for organization within Zeppelin that just makes it really easy for you to manage all these. So you can click and drag, you can right-click, you can search, and then once you search, you can also click and drag and do something with these. So there's a lot of flexibility here to sort of help you manage this. But yeah, so for each component, you can add a custom description. You're completely flexible to what you want to include in this description. And then also too, we can also add descriptions to each section. And then again, that might help sort of give context for what these controls happen to be. Or maybe you could send a link maybe to a specific area of the repository where these controls live. Again, all features that just help you help you and your team navigate this faster, especially the engineers as well. Okay, can you see your component code when looking at components? Yeah, it really depends on which extensions that you have enabled. So let me jump back over into Zeppelin. So depending on the extensions that you have enabled for this specific project, we'll either generate a code snippet, or it depends on, so in this case, you can see that we have a web element and that we have CSS generated. Yeah, so for any engineers that we have on the call, so you can always add more extensions, by the way, to any of the projects or that you happen to be working with. You can just click on Explore Extensions, and you can see that we have first-party extensions that we develop here at Zeppelin. Extensions are just ways, or the mechanism that we use to generate code snippets for the engineers, just to make their life easier. So we'll include like very popular ones like HTML and CSS and stylus. These are also platform-specific, some of them, so depending on the platform that you're developing for. So like Swift, for example, would just be for the iOS projects, but React Native would be for iOS and Android. And you can add these to your projects and we'll generate that corresponding code snippet. I want to mention too, for the engineers on the call, or if you have any engineers on your team that might be interested in extending the functionality of Zeppelin, these are all open source, and you can also build your own. So if you want to do something custom, you could sort of encourage your engineers to do something that might be specific to your organization. Like just for example, and we can also add them to our site as well. just for example, I developed one that was, it exported all the strings, all the content from within a design. And it just made it easy for like a translation team to go and grab all those strings and then just translate them into another language. So that's just an idea, something you can do there. Okay, great. And jump on to the next questions. We got about 5 minutes left here. Okay, like components, would it be possible to see which typeface is used, which screens from the style guide would be great for typography-driven product like ours? Yeah, so let's see, which screens? Okay, so right now we do that for components. We don't yet do that for typeface, but that's something that we can definitely look into. That's a great suggestion. Yeah, so what the question is here is that when we happen to be from within a project, I'm just gonna choose the web project here. And let's just say I was clicking on a component. When we link to the style guide, we can see other screens that this component happens to be used in. What this person was asking is for the typeface information or textile information, maybe we could also see what other screens this typeface happens to be used in. So that's definitely something that we can look into. That's a great suggestion. So I guess the idea would be is that we will, uniquely link, in this case, it might be like web header text, but we could probably also show you what other screens it happens to be used in. Okay, cool. Okay, does Zeppelin have an integration with Jira? And can you touch Zeppelin and tickets? Yeah, so our Jira integration, as I mentioned before, is something that we're working on right now. It seems to be really popular, so we're developing that as we speak. And again, if you have any sort of must-have functionality from within that, we're definitely, now's the perfect time to tell us. So if you could help us sort of shape the feature to be most useful, please let us know. And then attaching Zeppelin and existing tickets right now. So yeah, so either from the web interface or from our desktop interface, for any of the screens or projects or components, you also see that we have a share button, and we usually give you two links, a web link and an app link. Just very simply, the web link opens in the web interface and the app link opens in the desktop interface. Usually we include both because we have a lot of folks that maybe don't have the desktop app, so they might, click on the appropriate link. You can also do this for components as well. So if you click on a component from within your style guide, we'll also provide that as well. So yeah, we'll link to different things, and what you can do is you can just link, by copying this link, you can just link it into whatever ticketing system that you happen to use. I also want to mention too that it's not just components and maybe project screens. You can also link directly to sections of components and other things like that. So you can just do that by right-clicking on the ellipses here and then copying the appropriate link. Okay, great. Is there some sort of XD integration as Sketch? Yeah, so as I mentioned before as well, we're completely design tool agnostic. And one really cool thing about Zeppelin is that regardless of which design tool you'll use in the future, we'll still be here and we'll still be developing new extensions for the next new hottest design tool. It's kind of cool actually, because then if half your team uses XD and maybe half your team uses Figma or Sketch, you can still use Zeppelin and still collaborate, and we'll still be able to export all those designs. So yes, we have full integration with XD and Figma as well, and you can do component uploads and the same functionality that you have from within Sketch. Okay, is this new feature, Global Style Guides, available for all plans? Yes, absolutely. It's something that we wanted to extend to all Zeppelin users. I also want to say too that we've also removed from our starter and growing business plans, we had a limit on the amount of components previously, and that limit's been removed. So some people were like, we're hitting something like a 300 component limit, but yeah, we completely removed that. So we want to encourage people to use this as much as they can and to share as many components as they have. Okay, just gonna handle the last two questions and then we'll get wrapped up here. When exporting colors from Sketch, why aren't all the 20 colors listed in the Zeppelin Global Style Guide? Okay, so they should. If you could just sort of, maybe not sure about what's going on there, if you could just shoot us a note at hi@zeppelin.io, we can definitely look into that for you. Or I could jump on a call with you real quick and we can just look at it real fast. But yeah, so there's two ways really to export colors, or there's a couple ways. You could just click from within Sketch. You could just do export colors. I recommend trying that out. We also do too, so if you upload, like let's just say a few symbols to a style guide, we can also suggest on the import that will also grab the document colors and suggest to add those. And then if you happen to be on Zeppelin Organization Plan, additionally, we can also copy existing colors from an existing global style guide. Yeah, so just shoot us a note. We can definitely look into that for you. Okay, and the last one, how do you handle components, for example, buttons with multiple states, icon color states, yet all states in your style guide? Yeah, so this is something that we're looking into adding in the future for different states. Right now, we don't handle component states, but it's something that we're looking into supporting in the future and sort of giving you a way to manage all the states of the components. Right now, we're uniquely identifying components by name, so if the component has the same name, we'll just upload it in place. So that's something that we're looking to develop in the future. Okay, cool. So that is our Zeppelin talk. I'm going to send out the recording to everybody. Again, please tweet a screenshot of your global style guide and tag us at Zeppelin. We'll send you a shirt, or I'll send you a, Mike and I will send you a shirt. Like we'll go to the post office and mail you something. So please do that and we'll send you a shirt. Okay, thank you everybody for joining. I'll send out the recording afterwards. Have a good day.
Bye.